discussion meeting actually came about because Debbie asked us if she could come to the Trades Council meeting to talk to us about a number of issues relating to standing up for our NHS and particularly the transformation plans. And we thought that it would be rather a shame not to throw that open to all trade unionists who wanted to attend, and also by so doing, as I said informally before, to let everyone know that we were so concerned and so doing as well. So it's actually come about through Debbie, this particular meeting, and we're very, very grateful. And Jenny is a member of the Learning Disability Services, a UNISON member at Somerset County branch, and is going to tell us a lot about learning disability services and what's happened to it, and what the future looks like if we do something about it and if we don't. Is that fair enough? Okay. So first, very welcome and many thanks. But Debbie, would you like to talk to us a little bit?
I'm Debbie. I've been a nurse for 38 years this year, all in the NHS, and I've been with UNISON as an activist for about 8 years now. And I don't know how much background you know to the STP, which is the Sustainability and Transformation Plans, so I'll do a little bit about that. There hasn't been a lot out in the public domain, which is partly we found out because the individual employers haven't been allowed to do that, and partly because there may be no structured plan at the moment. There's a lot of people running around like headless chickens who are doing their ordinary day jobs as executives in the trust, as well as producing a lot of material for a nationally led organisation that is demanding it's done within strict deadlines. So the background to the STP is that every local health and social care system in England was asked to create a local plan for accelerating the implementation of the 5-year forward plan, which occurred in 2014, and Yeovil was quite instrumental in that design. And these plans are called Sustainability and Transformation Plans, or STPs. There are 44 footprints or areas in England who are expected to agree to 2-year contracts for the next 2 years up to 2019. UNISON's position on this vision of health and social care integration is that it supports the idea of replacing competition with collaboration and cooperation, but there is serious doubt about the feasibility and the funding of the plans. Currently, we have no specific details about the actual changes proposed, such as community hospital closures or inpatient bed reductions. There are risks identified for staff, such as changes to roles and terms and conditions. Various back office functions will be needed to be shared, and in fact the HR services between Somerset Partnership and Taunton and Somerset are already a combined service. There is a plan for a reduction in the workforce, which has not been elaborated on, and the plan calls for a single accountable care organisation, and this could potentially be outside the NHS. There is currently no engagement with staff or the public in Somerset, and we're expecting this to occur after the local government elections in May. Somerset has particular problems that have been identified. We have rising A&E attendances and emergency admissions, which leads to failed government targets. GP recruitment and retention is a problem, with 31% of Somerset GPs will be retiring in the next 3 years. There is a lack of adequate number of mental health inpatient beds, resulting in out-of-area admissions. It's quite common for people to go to Birmingham or even Glasgow for an inpatient admission. Workforce shortages, for example, the dermatology service based at Musgrove has recently been closed to new admissions, and there's a stopgap service between Yeovil, Exeter and Bristol at the moment, with no future plan that's been made. And there's also a financial deficit of £33 million in Somerset. The health improvement priorities that have been identified by the STP are the increasing rate of obesity and lack of activity in the public in Somerset, a high number of people who smoke, and the need for a higher investment in mental health, and the recognition that there is overinvestment in community services. Somerset has an above average of community hospitals. Each employer is represented regionally by 2 star-side reps on a social partnership forum, and we meet every month with the HR directors to discuss progress, or seemingly to discuss progress. We don't actually have any progress. UNISON has a regional health service group, and we meet regularly to discuss the STP, and each area in the southwest is represented by a local lead. The plans for the STPs vary throughout the region. Devon is more advanced than Somerset, and Bristol is behind us. Some areas are already consulting with the public, and the public response in Devon and Dorset is quite strong and has been seen quite recently in a demonstration against local hospital closures. We're producing generic leaflets which can be adapted to each local area, and we're printing leaflets targeting the local government elections. We've already engaged with the Adult Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee and have asked for their assurance that they will exercise their powers to ensure that the plans undergo appropriate scrutiny and transparent consultation with the public. We're intending to approach the Health and Wellbeing Board of local government and have asked for a trade union seat on the local Workforce Action Board. These plans will affect the health and social care services locally and are the biggest threat to the future of the NHS that I've seen in my 38 years. Currently, we are hampered by the lack of detail involved in these plans. Whether they are intentionally withheld or do not exist is in doubt. I hope that when we begin to raise awareness with the public and staff, we will gain support to ensure that there are no changes made without thorough consultation. If possible, we would like to ask for your help when we begin this process of public engagement, as this is an issue that affects every one of us, our families and our friends.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you. I think what we should do is that was great. We should hear from Jenny, because it's a different sort of perspective and different area. And then we'll move in first to questions and then to discussion. So if I could ask Jenny now to say a few words.
Right, from the 1st of April 2017, the Learning Disability Provider Service became a social enterprise called Discovery, the parent company being Dimensions. This meant that 1,200 staff have been 2 feet across from Somerset County Council to the new social enterprise. We look after 900 very vulnerable adults. Some of them have PMLD, which is profound mental and learning disabilities. They would not be able to feed themselves. Some of them have to be peg fed, so there's specialist training that's required for that. We have people on the autistic spectrum, and a lot of the people that we support value their day services, something which looks under threat with the closure of the main day services. I mean, if we look at the timeline that this happened, it all started back in 2007. It was called the Futures Project. Various options were looked at, and in 2012, Cabinet decided that the Learning Disability Provider Service would seek a partner to form a new social enterprise, and the emphasis was to be on quality, not on savings. We then entered the tender process, and 4 were shortlisted. 1 dropped out immediately, another 2 dropped out during the process, and at the end we were left with just 1 bidder, Dimensions. The in-house improvement plan was discounted back in 2012. With only 1 bidder left, where was the comparison? Both Unison and Unite asked for the option to be reconsidered. but to no avail. We were constantly told that the service needs to modernise and that it's not sustainable in its current form. The reality and what the future holds is alarming. Now that Dimensions have got the contract and that we've started up with this new social enterprise, the first thing they want to do is a management restructure. This means the complete removal of the service manager management grade, a reduction of team managers, we think, to about 50%. The assistant team managers will remain. My grade, which is support leader, it doesn't exist. The reduction in pay that's proposed, new relief workers are currently being offered £7.60. Somerset County Council, the top rate for relief workers was £8.41. There's going to be changes in all terms and conditions. We have won one battle, which was they said the relief workers could not be 2P'd across. But they have clearly been marked on our rotas. They do consistent hours for us, so we have won the legal battle there. So they are going to be 2P'd across. The consultation with Dimensions is to start shortly this month. UNISON is planning a political campaign with the lead up to the elections in May. So our future looks, I don't know, somewhat difficult. I came into work today. We've got all our new computers. People are having trouble logging on. It's just complete chaos. There's staff, well, we've had relief staff that haven't turned up for shifts. We've got, one of my colleagues has been on shift 72 hours and hasn't gone home yet. We're delivering a service to very, very vulnerable adults. In my particular area, it's domiciliary care, so we're working one-to-one. We can't just walk out if somebody doesn't turn up. We are hoping that we can encourage Somerset County Council to find more money for this particular contract, because without it, I just see the whole thing collapsing. We have not been able to recruit on the hourly rate that's been offered, so if we drop it to £7.60, what makes the Dimensions think that they can recruit at that pay? So what the future holds, I don't know, but it's uncertain. Thank you.
So very, very bleak picture. I could add to that at the Somerset County Council meeting in mid-February, which set the budget, a huge number of questions were asked, weren't they? About how to make into one service, make them match the health and the social care side of things, the social care of which this is one aspect, and also about the cuts, about the underfunding in general, and about the learning disability service in particular. Because I think I'm right in saying that even one of the committees that looked at the whole process has complained openly that it didn't have the proper information on which to base its decision, so that even now there is a procedural issue, a legal issue.
It was the scrutiny committee on the 1st of March.
Yeah, didn't have the problem. A number of us asked questions at public question time, and I don't know about the others, but this was mid-February and I still haven't received my promised written response. So this is where we are with it. So first of all, has anyone got any questions, specific questions about the sustainability and transformation plan. I think it was a Freudian slip on my part because I only referred to transformation plans when I talked about it, Debbie, and I think that's because I'd already decided that they're not sustainable. But the STPs are about the learning disability services in particular. Are there any questions to start with?
Debbie, what would happen then if you got the end of this 2-year period and you've not achieved a plan to go forward? Is there any backup step forward?
No, there's nothing concrete that we've got in this plan. There are vague things that we've got. We do know that it's a national project, so it's coming down from above, and the trusts are being told this, and the council, this is what you will do, no question about it. And if you don't do it, we'll send in sort of like a management team that will take over and will do it. So their jobs, their roles are under threat as well, really. So they have to toe the line. But there's no consequences that we know of if you don't do it. But obviously the vision is a wonderful vision, and we would all like it to work. But there is no thought given to the interim period. You could throw any amount of money in the NHS, and social care would soak it all up. So it's not only money that's involved, it's also the biggest asset, which is the staff, is how you treat your staff. How are you going to re-educate them? If you don't want them working in a hospital, how are you going to get them out in the community? Because you can't just take somebody who's worked on an inpatient ward and put them in somebody's home to work. There's a lot of education that's needed, and that hasn't been thought about. We as individual organisations, we're working against each other the whole time. We have Somerset Partnership, who are a community trust, who run all the community hospitals. They have their own problems. They've closed Minehead because they couldn't staff it, and that has a direct impact overnight on trying to get people out of Musgrove. And then we have Yeovil, who have been going down a road with their 5-year forward plan. They have something called the Symphony Project, which is to do with hubs of care in GP surgeries. They don't really want to play with the two of us. So, and nobody wants their own budget swallowed up by other people. And I wonder whether we will go so far down the line and all of a sudden somebody will go, do you know what, it's not going to work. And all this work and stress for everybody, which is the public, the staff, even the management of the hospital and the council, you don't really get the feeling that they believe in all of this.
So really, you could end up with a postcode lottery where Yeovil had gone down and advanced to such a certain stage, and the Taunton Musgrove Park Hospital, if they weren't there,
well, I think
you could get a completely different service if you were in Yeovil and if you were in Taunton in West Somerset.
Well, in the vision you wouldn't, but the thing is, Yeovil are quite a way down the road in various other plans that were in place. And I think they'd rather be in Dorset than Somerset, but they can't redraw the county line. But there are talks even now of, we call them footprints, these different areas, of perhaps redrawing the footprints. So even now, Yeovil might end up in the Dorset footprint. It's just ludicrous.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jamshid, a question, then Andy, then Ken.
My question is about the vision. Although you are more optimistic about that, if this transition period is successful, the future would be great. What we have seen over the last 20, 30, 25 years, a number of projects, care in the community and others, have been very much a process of dismantling service and public service with tremendous pressure on the service users. And I don't know how, when the county council and the local authorities are more or less in the process of being disintegrating and being diminished. Somebody told me recently that beyond 2020 there is no guarantee that we would have a reliable local authority, because if the funding process continues to be going downward, perhaps by 2020 there won't be that much of the activity under the local authority banner. Then this merger of the two activities, to putting the two activities, means that you have got to provide activities which up to this point was the responsibility of another agency. Would not that put undue and unbearable pressure on the resources that you are relying, and as a result the whole thing would disintegrate?
I think there's what we see from within the health service is that a lot of privatisation has gone on already, and it's piecemeal, and it's not obvious to the public at all. So a lot of things are happening which fit in with the STP, but are going along at the moment in the name of organisational change within the employer. For instance, at Musgrove we have 250 cleaners who are currently undergoing the threat of downgrading to a band 1, the lowest rate of pay. They're threatening them, saying, well, if you don't take a pay cut, we'll put it out, we'll outsource it, because we need to provide a better service which is consistent all around the hospital. But there are 250 people there who have been encouraged over the years to improve themselves and have pride in their job. They're the building blocks of what we all work on, because they maintain the cleanliness, and within an instant they've completely demoralised that group of workers with the threat of outsourcing. So some of them will say, oh well, I'd rather have a job than be outsourced, because we've been down that road before and it was a disaster. In Yeovil, the day case theatres are partially privatised now.
Excuse me, what theatres?
It's day case. So if you go in and have a small procedure where you're in and out within a day, you don't take up a bed as such. There's an American company that's got an alliance with Yeovil, and all the staff have been transferred over to them. So that's you've got one foot in the private sector and one foot in Yeovil District Hospital. Yeah, you're nearly there really. And it's, there are things like the microbiology services that test all the samples that go up. That's all privatised. There's talk about the X-ray services. They're right to be privatised. The hearing service, which is a brilliant service for this county, where you can go out locally to any of the outlying villages often and turn up, take a ticket, and you can have your hearing aid mended, you get free batteries. That is being run down and is right to be taken over by Boots or somebody. All sorts of things like that, which are sort of like Cinderella services in a way, because they're not, they're not dynamic like, the cardiac services if you have a heart attack. So they get away with it because nobody knows that they're going on. And I think it is a way of saying, well, all right, we might still have an NHS, but it'll only be the certain key services, and the rest of it will be out. So we won't have to worry about so much about finances, because we won't have so much to worry about.
Thank you. It was Andy and then Ken for questions.
So my question is, what can we as activists do now?
We're targeting the local elections at the moment, and we're targeting the seats where there's a Tory in post and is closely followed by a Labour or a Lib Dem candidate. So we're hoping that the structure of the local government will be changed come May the 5th, because their politics are more allied to what we want out of all of this.
That's exactly what we're doing.
So we're putting all our eggs in that basket at the moment, because we can't actually go out to the public or the staff and say this is what's going to happen, because they won't let us know, and you can't engage people, public or staff, until you've got something which directly affects them. You know, if we were told in Somerset we're only going to have 6 community hospitals, we could go out there and get everybody angry, because that's what's happening in Devon and Dorset. But we can't say that because they haven't let us know what their plans are.
That's up. Thank you. And Ken.
Yeah, thank you. Well, part of my question has been answered a bit. What I'm looking for is some specific things that one could campaign about in the Oval area about what these changes will mean. Now, I didn't know what you told me about the day case work being privatised to a American company. I didn't know that. That's news to me, and there are other examples, presumably. You mentioned one other, I think. You know, a list will be handy, and we need to try and make the public aware of this, and also what privatisation means, because a lot of people confuse the issue, think that as long as you're not paying for it, and it's funded by the taxpayer, it doesn't matter who provides the service. I think that's not true. I think if the profit motive is there, it has an evil effect on what happens and on the priorities. So that kind of more specific information for the overall would be very useful. But also very keen, can I say, in the Yeovil Trade Union Council to have a UNISON representative, and we haven't got one.
No.
That would be a great help for us to, give solidarity to what's happening in this matter.
We have a problem with visiting sort of things like this. It's in an ideal world, we'd say, right, well, our rep from Yeovil would go and attend. We actually have one representative in Yeovil Hospital who is inundated with, we haven't got enough capacity, and it's the same in Bridgewater. And then you're also dealing with volunteers who come into union activism for different reasons. I quite naively think everybody's there for the same reason, that they want to help people, and they're not. So it's difficult, and if you push them too much, they'll just say bye. So we try and sort of keep them, but trying to persuade, like we were saying, trying to persuade people to turn up to meetings is a nightmare. It really is.
Jimmy.
Mine's an observation more than anything. Your story reminds me, I feel like I'm somebody who's gone to the cinema, and this is the point where I came in. Because this is really what happened on the railway 30 odd years ago. Everybody talks about the privatisation of the railway, but when they were talking about that, nearly a half of it had already been privatised. All of the refreshment rooms have been taken over. The estate department have been taken away and gone to something else. And they've gone right the way down. And even within the engineering department, you found out that you had to hire a plant, you had to do everything else. What was left was just a rub. And when they said, well, what about privatisation? Well, there's hardly anything left.
Any more questions before we just move into more open discussion? Just Bob.
Yeah, you say you're getting some leaflets. When will they be ready?
Well, this is what we've got at the moment. I've got some copies of those. And as I say, it's very difficult to whet people's appetite, because we found with various things, like trying to get people activated. It's with we had a march through Taunton when pensions were under threat. Something that directly affects them. It's easy to do it. You're in one way you're lucky that you've got something now that you can get people motivated.
We don't know the full facts though, because they wouldn't tell us the facts, because we weren't employees of the new Discovery. We were Somerset County Council employees. So we've got no consultation that's happened. And the other thing I didn't actually emphasise is the fact that they never told us the truth. And that they were saying nothing about saving money. And in actual fact, it was everything about saving money.
Do we know the background of Dimensions? Who's running it? Are they a profit-making company? Or
Not for profit.
They're not.
Yeah. But UNISON had concern with them back in 2012 when they were cutting pay and conditions for staff, and at that point they were virtually bankrupt.
Okay, so the thing we've got to concentrate on tonight, I think, because this is obviously a Trades Council meeting, and that's all about what unions can do together, and not only what they can do together to support the campaigns, but also what they can do with the community to support those campaigns, because that's the unique position of the Trades Council, isn't it? That it's where unions meet the community. So that's really important, but our discussion should also, I think, take contributions, if anyone wants to make them, on how they see what is happening and what is the political as well as the economic intention behind what's happening. So let's throw it open for comments, but we can't leave, except Bob, who's got to go at 7 o'clock, because he's already
I've
told
got to be
me.
there by
He's got to
7
be there
o'clock.
by 7, okay.
Or I get voted in as chairman. So.
Yes, he's going to a meeting that's going to give him lots of jobs if he doesn't get there. So Bob's got to go. But we can't leave this room without we have a basic idea of what this Trades Council is going and its members are going to do about this now. Right, Jamshid, you want to go first?
Yeah, already I think that there is two questions. It was very obvious that we lack information, about the facts of the matter. Debbie mentioned, I went to my doctor 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, and because of the mistreatment that I received, there are certain marks here in my nose, and I asked my GP, can he refer me to dermatology department, because it has been now for 5 months that I've been dealing with this and it's not getting better. And he said, yes and no. I said, what do you mean yes and no? He said, yes, I should, but no, I can't, because the dermatology department, is closing. And if I want them to refer you, I've got to refer you to Bristol. And so he said that it's better perhaps so I find another GP who has got a specialism on dermatology to have a look to see what we can do. So that type of information, unless I was affected, I didn't know that the dermatology department of Mosborough is closing down. The second issue for me is the use of the right information. For example, Jenny, you were referring to they are trying to save money. It's not saving money. They are cutting services.
Yeah.
There is no saving them. I've been in county council in the last 5 years, 6 years. They have cut 130 million. Every year they have come for 20 million, 24 million, 30 million, and each year they come for more. This year I thought that there wasn't anything, and there is another 24 million. So these are cuts.
Yeah.
There is no saving whatsoever. So as a result, we need to tell the public that they are cutting services. And I think that the public are very, very concerned. They might not really be that much familiar with the impact of losing the local authority, but they are sensitive to the NHS and to the hospital because they are frightened. We need to actually give them information. about the state of her as it is. And that way, they're trying to alarm them that look, if we don't do something beyond the 2020, there won't be anything left to defend or to support.
I think the plan is that each local authority will be self-sustainable by the period 2020 to 2025. So constantly, what we're going to go is a cutback on central government funding to us and money being raised locally, as we've seen with a 5% rise in the community charge. There's all the parishes are doing presets as well. So what you're getting is this salami slicing all the time. We're paying more for worse services, and that is really the message we've got to get over. I was talking to a lady who had the chance to, she worked for your service, and fortunately she's 65, and just said no thank you very much. And you're losing people like that. Now, from what I can see of it and what I've learned, it's going to be a pretty abysmal service, which you're going to do. And we've really got to let people out there wake up and start smelling the coffee and realise that you're being taken for a bunch of idiots by this Conservative government, who locally seem to be more interested that we get the national deficit down than they do about providing services locally for the people of Somerset.
I think the other thing is with this STP is that the emphasis is on preventative, and actually if people earned a decent wage, they would be able to feed themselves healthily. They would have, they would have a good work-life balance and all these sorts of things. But when you're denied, a decent wage and decent social care, you're not going to be that healthy.
No.
And so it's flawed from the bottom as it is. And and within this, we're talking about paying the people that want to promote it all. We're talking about paying them less and cutting their terms and conditions. And I just feel I used to be so proud to be part of the NHS, and part of me still is for that vision that is the NHS, but to actually be associated with this and the way that they're going about it is an embarrassment, really.